Thank you very much, Jakob. Welcome to all of you. I'm very happy to be here at the sixth edition of the Product Carbon Footprint World Summit. Many of you, or many of us together, have quite some history behind us in these issues, talking through quite some also difficult times, I would say, in dealing with a lot of standardization issues, methodological issues around carbon footprinting, and how to actually bring the different activities together that are happening worldwide. And to start off, I would like to show a slide which I have shown previously at least the previous summit, maybe also earlier, and that is to remind all of us of the bigger picture. And this in particular here on climate change. We are talking about global greenhouse gas emissions. It's a global challenge. Greenhouse gas emissions are on the rise. They are almost beyond the business as usual scenario that you see here. And the pathway that we still need to get onto is like the direct opposite. And the activities that we are addressing here or have addressed in the past should or must address this challenge. Otherwise, we are spending our time on the wrong efforts and wasting time probably. Because if we are not somehow directly contributing to substantial greenhouse gas reductions globally, then well, we may have to find different approaches to this topic. And this is like the challenge that we have here. This is one in our lifetime. It's not beyond what we, I mean, sometime in the far, far future, but this will relates to many of us, our children, and will shape very much the upcoming decades. And this you're also very much familiar with, but also to remind all of us, this is the different emission pathways for carbon dioxide emissions from fossil energy use, so it's not all greenhouse gas emissions. But what this slide shows is the later we start with substantial emission reductions, the more steep these reductions will have to be. And so if you see like if we kind of get the turnaround this year, which we are far away from, then we would still have the chance by 2050 to still have some budget for fossil energy use. If we're not achieving it, which we are on the pathway to doing, then this opportunity vanishes. This will not be there, and it will be even more difficult to actually drive the changes and the transformation that we need globally in our energy systems and well, general in the systems how we function as society. So this challenge has been very much the focus of the past summits and all the discussions and developments around carbon footprinting. And I think it is fair to say that quite a substantial amount of effort has gone into developing globally relevant, accepted methodologies for carbon footprinting, greenhouse gas assessments in companies, but also beyond companies for different systems. And what we now have, and this you will learn more about later, is the release of the 2 greenhouse gas protocol standards that have just been published beginning of October. And we're now entering a phase where we're more talking about strengthening of standards and building the underlying and supporting infrastructure, which has happened before, but I think this is like we're more on a paved road now than identifying which road exactly to go onto. And this is about building databases, providing training, software tools, developing product category rules, sector guidance documents, common templates, and so on, to really build the infrastructure to make work what we have been talking about over the past years, and to actually help those companies, but also others that want to apply these standards and methodologies and make them work and put them to use for their own business case, but also for driving greenhouse gas emission reductions. So in this sense, or this in the sense which I call a deepening of greenhouse gas assessments, this will also be dealt with over the next 2 days in the summit. It's still a Product Carbon Footprint World Summit, so we still follow very much the developments that have shaped our discussions in the past. The new greenhouse gas protocol standards will be introduced by WRI, WBCSD. The revised PAS 2050 has just been published, and it is probably very helpful for us to understand and also listen carefully how this revision has taken place and how it relates to the international landscape that we have today, October 2011. We'll have a case study from Danone with quite a comprehensive effort underlying it, which is to actually make carbon footprinting work on a much larger scale than we have normally been talking about. We will learn about the current status of different national carbon footprinting activities. I'm very happy that we have actually 3 guests from Lagos with us who will inform all of us about their project and how they approach carbon footprint reductions in Lagos, in Nigeria. We have information about the current status of the Japanese carbon footprint, also with relation to the international landscape. The Korean carbon labeling project will have in one of the tracks later this afternoon, a talent session to look at the talent that is actually required and needs to be developed and found to make the changes happen and to actually implement many of the tools that we are discussing. And on the second day, we have decided, and this you may have noticed, we decided this a couple of weeks ago, to do one session on the accounting of green power in carbon footprinting, because this is an issue which is brought up often, and there still seems to be some struggles or challenge around really accounting for that situation, and want to better understand what the status actually is and what perspectives we may have. These presentations are intensifying our understanding and discussion around carbon footprinting. But of course, the climate change challenge does not exist in isolation to many other challenges that we have on a global scale, but also on, of course, other scales. And just to name a few, we're, of course, very much aware and talking about issues like biodiversity loss, water scarcity, soil degradation, desertification, also deforestation, and similar challenges. And it is important that we establish an understanding of these and also understand the connections to carbon footprinting and climate change. And this connection is not just one where we would see, okay, well, we have a lot of isolated challenges, and now we have, after having developed carbon footprinting tools, now we will find the right biodiversity indicators, and then the next and the next. But what we have to understand is that these major global challenges very much relate to each other and emphasize each other, like, how do you say, like they're feedbacks that climate change has on biodiversity loss, but also on freshwater scarcity, on soil degradation, and many other challenges. So this summit's topic is environmental footprinting in Europe and beyond. And when we talk about this, I would like to keep ourselves in mind that these are very much integrated issues, and when addressing these issues, we need to find integrated approaches to make that work. That does mean to understand them individually, to understand what their scale is, and what possibilities for their reduction are, but also to understand the interrelationships that are important to see. And this slide is taken from a working group, or a group that is directly consulting the German government on global change issues, be it climate change but also others. And they very much identified these different interrelationships that are present in the challenges that we have. And one thing, and this is going back to climate change, if we are not able to meet the basic climate change objectives, targets that we have for the upcoming years, it will be very, very difficult to deal with any of the other challenges that are here, because we will kind of break through the boundaries that are established, be it on biodiversity, water, and others, if climate change is not solved, but probably the relation is also the other way around, so we really need to take this in an integrated manner. So this summit will also see the integration of some further approaches besides the pure carbon footprinting approach. And also in the past we have been talking here, because it was very much related to what we are doing, about the French environmental labeling project, which has always had a multi-criteria approach integrated in an understanding of these integrated challenges depending on also the sectors and products we're talking about. So this will have more room this time at this summit. We'll have a general introduction this morning by Sylvain Chevassus. We'll have in the methodology track a video presentation by Adem on the methodological framework. In the communication track, there will be a lot will be talked about very practical examples from the experimentation and the general approach taken to communication, which I think will be surprising to many of us, like the amount and scale of activity that has actually taken place in France. And of course, we also see the new developments around an EU environmental footprinting methodology, which was announced earlier this year and is moving on in a very fast pace, and it makes a lot of sense to also understand where are we there, where are we heading, can we already foresee how this will also possibly shape our discussion in the future. And besides these quantification approaches to environmental impacts, we of course also have to understand and talk about the integration of different challenges, be it climate change, but also others, in existing certification systems and environmental labeling schemes. And in this regard, tomorrow we will learn about the Blue Angel and how it is improving and updating its climate change criteria, and actually developing something like a climate angel, which is still having a multi-criteria approach, but with a focus on climate change for certain product categories. We'll learn about the Swedish climate certification system, which is also undertaken in a manner to be complementary to existing certification systems. And we'll have an insightful presentation around the fair trade network and how the aspect of climate change is integrated into that work. Today, as mentioned, we have in the afternoon dedicated tracks on particular issues, and I don't want to describe it in detail. You have it in the program, I just want to encourage you to make up your mind now or now in the morning which session you would like to join. The methodology track, where we'll better understand the French system, also the EU environmental footprinting system, but also the very elaborate and comprehensive system developed by the Sustainability Consortium, will take place upstairs in the room that is above the screen. Then we have a second track on communication approaches for quantified environmental impacts with examples from the French experimentation, a video from Good Guide that some of you, or many of you probably know, and some have heard about at one of the previous summits from Daniel Goleman, who introduced it to us very briefly, and we thought it is time to better understand what is actually behind it and show this video. And there will also be a presentation which is not in the printed program, which is by Steffen Gentes from BBDO on carbon footprint of commercial film production and how it actually is implemented in the communication with production companies, but also customers in reducing and driving emission reductions in the commercial film industry. And then we have a third track, which is which I'm very happy about that we have it. It's kind of beyond what we usually address, but I think it fits very well into the overall agenda that we have. That is the question of talent for developing low-carbon products and value chains, or low environmental footprint products and value chains, of course, also. And this session will explore how to identify, develop talent for well, the many needs that we may face. And this session is chaired by Tom and Cynthia, and that will be downstairs. So think about which session you want to join. I forgot to mention the methodology session will be chaired by myself, and the communication track by Olivier Jean from BioIS. So what I would like to give you on the way for the next 2 days is 2 questions for your consideration. And one is, what do we actually see is beyond the quantification of carbon and environmental impacts that we talk a lot about? But I think we should also, in the back of our mind, always with all the presentations, understand how do we actually achieve these significant reductions collectively that we talk about. I mean, these are collective efforts, so if there is room to do this jointly, then I think we should also better understand, well, where is there actually room, where do we need to take the next step and go beyond the quantification effort that was, I think, at the core of what we have talked about so far. And also, coming back to the summit title, what do we see as the perspective for widespread adoption of these emerging systems, the infrastructures that are built by business on a larger scale? So I'm not talking about pilot companies that explore this issue for several reasons, but also to really make it work for businesses to then also make the change happen that we kind of anticipate in developing these. The PCF World Forum, and these are my last 3 slides, was created in the ambition to not talk about each other, like to see, well, there is an initiative in Japan and in Sweden and UK, and we don't really understand what it is, but it doesn't look very good, or it looks very good, or going beyond talking and talking about other initiatives and understanding what they are doing, to actually talk with each other. That's why the PCF World Forum was created, to bring all of you together, many of the major initiatives around these issues together, to actually exchange viewpoints with each other, better understand the respective approaches, and also to see where there is there room for collaboration and moving forward together. I invite you to, in that sense, exercise mutual respect and interest in each other's activities, to really learn from each other here. So to not just sell your own initiative, but really be willing to also understand and learn how others are approaching it and how this could actually positively influence each other, and thereby entering in a very constructive dialogue in creating a shared space of learning. And tomorrow we will close the summit with an open question to all of you about the next 5 years in carbon and environmental footprinting. And this is a very open question, but of course we also have to think about the future, and I very much invite you to use the opportunity tomorrow afternoon to bring forward your ideas, comments, concerns maybe, that we should or could raise in this forum here, to see, okay, well, where do we need to steer in the future, and what will happen. And there are 2 questions that we put forward in different ways. One is, what do you expect will happen? So on what track are we currently on that will kind of shape the next 5 years in that regard? And the second question, well, what do you actually wish for, and what would you like to see happen in the next 5 years? Perhaps much of what we really expect to happen. And I invite you tomorrow to perhaps not just stand up, but even provide like a short, maximum 2-slide presentation if you have a particular input that you would like to share on this question, which I think would be very helpful to actually not just have all the speakers on stage that are already in the program, but also give more of us the opportunity to actually present their ideas to the whole group. Also, we put up pin boards in the back of the room with these 2 questions, which you can use if an idea comes up, or like a concern or some vision of the future, then jot it down, take a pen and write it on the board, so that we can also review that tomorrow in that session. So make active use of the 2 days, today and tomorrow, and in the end of the summer we'll hopefully and probably have a better understanding of this question to actually move forward and help all of you in your respective endeavors at home. So thank you very much for being here, and I'm very much looking forward to the next 2 days.